Let's bring in Governor Kristi Noem, governor of South Dakota. Good morning to you. I know you were in Georgia campaigning for Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue. The president was down there yesterday at the rally, and he was talking about socialism, warning of the high stakes in this race. And he says if Republicans lose both seats, here's what will happen. Take a listen to this and we'll get your reaction.
They want to turn, the Democrats do, America into Venezuela with no jobs, no prosperity, no rights, no freedom. They'll massively raise your taxes on the middle class to pay for socialism. The Democrats will surrender the entire U.S. manufacturing industry to China if Ossoff and Warnock are elected. They will immediately throw, and you know what's going to happen, they'll throw open American borders and allow tens of millions of illegal immigrants to pour into our country from every corner of the globe.
Governor, the better the turnout, the better it is for Republicans. What are you expecting today?
Well, that's true, Ainsley, and I'm expecting Republicans to show up and make sure that they be there for Kelly and David, get them into the Senate so they can continue to defend this country. Listen, I was in Georgia when Kelly debated Warnock, and it was astounding to me to watch that debate and to see that she specifically asked him to denounce socialism. She specifically asked him to denounce Marxism, and he refused. And that should have told the story right there about the choice that we have today for this country and our path going forward. So my hope is that everybody understands the consequences. Leadership does have consequences. When you give people the ability to go to D.C. and represent you, you want to make sure that they're experienced, that they've been in public office before, that they've run businesses, and that they have a solid head on their shoulders.
When people are on the ground, you've been on the ground in Georgia, and I heard going into this runoff, the number one issue for voters that resonates for Republicans is the fund the police, especially with the military community. And when you see what's happening in Portland, the anarchy with anarchists by a left-wing mayor, the same thing in Minneapolis, the same thing in Seattle. Do you believe when you were talking to people, was that the one issue? Or what are the issues you think that Georgians care about?
You know, there were several issues that came up, but one of the conversations that we kept having was that there is no mother that wants to raise her children on the streets of Portland today. And what we're seeing in Democrat-run cities is what could happen from coast to coast in this country if we let the Democrats run every single branch in Washington, D.C. and make the decisions going forward. They have not stood by our law enforcement officers. They have not enforced the law in this country. And we're seeing that play out on the streets and the violence that is happening back and forth throughout the last several months. Listen, Kelly and David love our law enforcement. They recognize that we have laws in this country for a reason, and they should be enforced. When they're broken, there should be consequences. That's an important discussion in Georgia. But also, I recognize that people understand the Marxism, the communism, the socialism discussion, but they also care about what their life looks like 6 months from now if their expenses go up, if they have less money in their pockets, because these Democrats have raised taxes. That we could, in a year and a half, 2 years, see $4 to $5 gasoline as a result of Democrat policy. So it's not just where the country will be 10 years from now. It's about what does your budget, what does your family's opportunities look like if we let Democrats do what they've actually been campaigning on.
Yeah. Governor, we had on the program about an hour and a half ago a woman by the name of Lauren Boebert, a small businesswoman from Colorado, now is a brand new member of the U.S. House of Representatives. She has the distinction, though, if people have been reading in the papers about the incoming member of Congress who's going to carry her gun to the job in Capitol Hill, she's the one. Here she is defending her right. And by the way, we should point out it is in the laws that you can carry it on the campus of the Congress. You just cannot have it on the floor. But she says she needs it if she's going to be in Washington, D.C. Listen.
It's very interesting that here in the United States of America that there is so much controversy over our Second Amendment rights. There's an absolute uproar over people wanting to defend myself. I mean, come on, I'm 5'0", 100 pounds. I am now in one of the most dangerous cities in America. The violent crime rate here is 158% times higher than the national average. I will be walking alone a lot. I don't go to work in an armored vehicle. I don't have personal police escorts. I am my own security here, and my most basic right is the right to defend myself.
And I understand that. I had a member of my immediate family knocked out on the streets of Washington, D.C. over the last year. And so I understand her concern. Yesterday, the incoming chief of police down in D.C. Said, you know what, I'm going to have to talk to her and explain to her the laws of Washington. That was his number one thing on his number one day that he told the press yesterday.
You know, it's surprising to me going forward. I know Lauren, I know her very well, and I think she's going to do a fantastic job for her state. But listen, people have carried on the campus, they've carried on the floor. When I was there, members of Congress were carrying, and nobody really knew or talked about it. I think it is a constitutional right that we have in this country that should be honored. And frankly, Washington, D.C. has gotten a lot more dangerous in 2020 and going forward into 2021 than it was before. So I would encourage all the law enforcement officers there to do their jobs, but also people to support them in doing that and to focus on keeping people safe rather than talking to someone who just wants to exercise the rights that she has under our Constitution.
Well, the implications will be felt in South Dakota and every state across our country. Thank you so much, Governor, for being on with us.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You're welcome. You too.